In 2022, Stephanus was diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer and was given just weeks left to live. According to proponents of assisted suicide, it could have been a dignified or a good thing for him to end his life after that diagnosis. Stephanus lives in Victoria, Australia, where assisted suicide is legal, but he refused to take that option and has significantly outlived his prognosis. Stephanus, thank you for joining us today. We so appreciate your openness and sharing your personal story about your diagnosis and what's happened since then. How long did the doctors think you had left to live?
The oncologist happened to mention at some point, they said that when I was diagnosed, they didn't think I'm going to live 2 weeks. Not 2 months, 2 weeks, because my liver was shutting down. I survived that. Then they reckoned maybe 2 months. I survived that. Then 6 months. I survived that. I was 86 kilograms, and within a matter of 8 weeks, I lost about 40 kilograms. I dropped down to 46 kilograms. The only thing that kept my weight a little bit above that was the fact that I had ascites. Now, ascites is not too common, but it does happen with a lot of pancreatic patients. Basically, if the metastasis happened on your liver, then the liver is not functioning correctly, and because of that, the fluids don't get disposed of as it should, and it ends up collecting in my abdomen area between my organs and my skin, my outside tummy. And at that time, when it started accumulating, it was a lot of discomfort and pain, because every time they went to drain me, and that was every 3 weeks, I had to go in for drainage, where they stick a big needle on the side, then push a tube in, and then I stay overnight to drain the fluids, and they would drain never less than 8 liters. So after all of that came about February, March of 2023. I started suddenly just improving. I just got better. And I can't explain it. I can't say why or what. Even the doctor, the oncologist, says it's not normal. He'd never seen ascites turn around. He's never seen that. And stopping, because that even stopped. He's never seen a pancreatic cancer patient improving like I did. The first time I realized I got better was when I kept on insisting that we build as much memories as we could, and we went to a place where they have mazes, natural mazes and stuff, and they've had tree topping where you climb ropes and obstacles up high up in the trees, and I loved those kind of things. I just enjoy those things, but the kids were doing it, and I just wanted to join them. And I said, I'm going to give it a try. I'm going to do at least one course. And did the highest grade course, because I'm confident with myself. Thought I'm not going to make it quite, but I'm just going to give it a try. Flew through it like that. I couldn't believe it. Went for another one. I ended up doing 4 or 5 of those courses that day. Oh man, I just felt so alive after that, and that getting it just felt like you're alive again, and that just gives you so much hope, and I think that moment things turned around, and I realized that maybe this can be beaten. If I would have given up and have my ticket punched, if so to say, or assisted suicide, and so on, what would I've all missed out on? I mean, don't give up. It's your mindset. I think has a lot to do with it. Even my wife had a good mindset about it. But yes, she passed away. But she was okay with it in the end. She did it quite peacefully. All her face was set out. We had our meetings with all our friends. We had some good times, built some memories, did some road trips, and so on.
In Westminster, they are looking to pass assisted suicide for England and Wales, and in Scotland, in Holyrood, they're looking to legalise it for Scotland too. And an advocate of assisted suicide called Kit Malthouse. There's a few clips I'd like to play for you just now.
Okay.
And he actually cited people with who have a pancreatic cancer diagnosis and who are told they have 2 weeks left to live, that assisted suicide should be rushed for them. Can we just watch this, and it'd be great to get your response.
Okay.
Some people will be diagnosed with pancreatic cancer with 2 weeks to go. Right? It depends on the disease. So, for example, if you look at pancreatic cancer, the median survival range is 12 to 6 months, right? Because it's a disease that does not exhibit symptoms. You only learn very late that you've got it. And that's why the normal curve is quite a short one for survival. These two amendments about extending the 48 hours to 7 days, these are people who've been told they're going to die within a month. Right? You've got less than 30 days to deal with your affairs, deal with your children, talk to your family, decide what you're going to do, and you want to take 7 days of that with them contemplating the fear of their death rather than rush it through. It is rushing it through in 48 days, reflecting on the fact that they're going to die.
When you got diagnosed, we didn't think you're going to make it 2 weeks. And like this guy said, you've got a prognosis of 2 weeks, and I was there. I've beaten it. So now if you tell a person that they can do the assisted suicide in 2 days so they can get it before the 2 weeks, he might have lived like me for 3 years. Because next month, it's going to be 3 years that I'm surviving. And obviously, who knows how long the cancer was there before I got diagnosed. So don't give people too quick an out. Give them hope rather than telling them that life is over and you better make a choice and get suicide. It doesn't make sense, because you could be the exception like I've been.
I'd also like to just quickly play you a clip from Kim Lebeter. Now, Kim Lebeter is the MP who's actually proposed the legislation. So she is very much a strong advocate for assisted suicide. She, in committee, has argued on the basis of a case of someone who chose assisted suicide in Australia. And he was a father, 39 years old, with young children. So it'd be really good to get your response to this clip, because obviously you have children, so you know the impact that the diagnosis has had on them. So it'd be great to hear your opinion on her comments here.
Rob was 39 years old and had a young family when he was diagnosed with stage 4 terminal lung cancer. He was fit, young, healthy, and didn't smoke. Now, as well as taking back control at the end of his life, one of his main reasons for choosing an assisted death was so that his young family could remember him as the man and the dad that he was. Surely we should not decide that that is not acceptable and understandable, and a perfectly understandable reason for choosing an assisted death.
Funny enough, tonight when I was at dinner with my kids, I told them I'm going to have this interview with people about assisted suicide and about cancer and so on. And they looked strange at me, and I had to explain what assisted suicide is. And they said, "That's crazy." They told me, because I asked them straight away, would they prefer me to commit suicide early so they can remember me the way I was, or would they prefer me to live as long as I can and they can have dad and mom for as long as it's possible? And it was a no-brainer for them. They would rather see me deteriorate and they can still have mom and dad there for as long as possible. And it wasn't it wasn't even a consideration for my two kids. It was like, we would be so crazy to think that we would rather want to lose you just so that we can remember how you were. We want to remember that you fought all the way and that you've been there for us all the time. And that will explain, that will answer a question by far. I mean, it would have been short-sighted of me to be so selfish to think my kids would want to remember me the way I was, because they will always remember the way you was, but they will also remember that you tried to your best to be around till the end.
Yeah. And then your wife passed away
Exactly.
after your prognosis. So if you had chosen it, then unbeknownst to you, they would have not had a parent to look after
I know.
them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But now they wouldn't have had a parent. And I've got a good quality of life at the moment, even though at this moment that I'm speaking to you, I'm going through chemo. I don't know if you mind if I can show you what it's about. So basically, on a Monday, every 2 weeks or 3 weeks, depending on my blood counts, if my blood counts are good enough, then I get a chemo protocol, and the protocol consists of 2 chemos that I get inside the drip in the hospital, and it takes the whole day. I pitch in at 8 o'clock, and they have to give it over long duration because I started getting allergic reactions to one of the chemos. So they have to give it longer, and they have to give pre-medication and so on, like antihistamines and steroids and stuff. So now I sit there till 5 o'clock. Then when around about 4:30, then they disconnect everything, and then they give me a little bottle like this. So if you can see that, it's got a little bubble in it. It's called a chemo pump. So there's chemo inside this, and it slowly releases over, 48 hours, I think, 46 or 48 hours, it releases. So tomorrow afternoon, I will go into the hospital and they disconnect it. What I mean with disconnect is I've got a port here in my chest, and that medication or that chemo goes into this port on my chest. I've been living with this port now for the 3 years, and all my chemo has been deposited. Well, not the first couple of chemos. That was done through Cantalac, but the rest of them was through the port.
Wow.
And so that's just to give you an idea of what quality of life I've still got, even though I'm on a harsh chemo treatment. I can't explain why my side effects is minimal, because I had this chemo 2 years ago, and my hair fell out. My teeth turned black. My nails were black. The skin on my feet fell off. I had mouth sores. I had so much issues and pain, and I can't remember all the side effects. Oh, the cold sensitivity. You can't touch anything cold, so you can't drink anything cold either. It gives you a shock going through your body. And my fingers would get very sensitive if I press hard, so I couldn't open up bottles, those kind of things, because then it's oversensitive. It's oversensitized nerve endings. So yeah, that's just, I've been through it. But now on the same chemo protocol, I'm doing way better. I don't know why. I've gained most of my weight back.
You've talked about how your children were kind of shocked by the idea of assisted suicide and the idea that it would be better for a family member to choose that rather than live for as long as possible. One of the most shocking things we've seen discussed in committee from people who support assisted suicide is the idea that families wanting people to live on till the very end is a form of coercion, and that is somehow wrong. for families to not want their loved ones to choose assisted suicide. And we've also heard from psychiatrists on the opposite side who say that if you pass assisted suicide, that we'll have to rework our suicide prevention strategies because it goes against suicide prevention. And I'm going to play for you just now a clip from an MP called Rebecca Paul. And she raises the fact that assisted suicide undermines suicide prevention. And she talks a little bit about advertisement.
It would be incredibly inappropriate for such services to be advertised on billboards, public transport, and even on daytime telly, targeting those who may be approaching the end of their lives. Ads run repeatedly along with those for stair lifts and life insurance. Such advertising could also undermine our national suicide prevention strategy by normalising suicide in certain situations. It becomes much harder to say to people that suicide isn't the answer if we are content to say that it is in certain situations. I can only imagine some of the difficult conversations generated off the back of an advert seen by a young girl or boy already battling with suicidal thoughts. How does a parent or guardian explain why suicide isn't right for us? And imagine the potential impact on men too. As we all know, suicide is a leading cause of death in men in this country. In 2022, for males between the age of 20 to 34, 1 in 4 deaths was categorised as intentional self-harm and event of undetermined intent. That is a shocking statistic. And that is why banning advertising of such services is so important.
The whole thing about people asking the people to stay alive for as long as possible. If it wasn't for that, the people that gave me support and assisted me and helped me, and I've given up, because this friend of mine that's in the UK, and I've talked many times, we've seen it many times, the moment a person gives up, it's just a matter of 2-4 weeks, they're gone. It's a lot about your mental state, and that is where support of the family helping you to say, listen, live as long as possible, hold on. And that holding on and living longer, it will make you live longer. I'm proof of that. And you can have then still do things. I mean, I didn't even mention this. While my wife was still alive and I was in bad shape, we went to Tasmania for a road trip with the Guardians. I had a big van, put the wheelchair in and all our suitcases. We put it on the ferry. We went over to the island and we drove around there for a week and came back. And that's good memories. They remember that trip and the ferry and everything. Those are the things. So you need the people to encourage you to live longer. That's my opinion. And I'm solid proof of it.
Yes, you are. In Australia, in 2023, I believe, the Federal High Court ruled that VAD, Voluntary Assisted Dying, is a form of suicide, and therefore it's not legal for people to encourage it over the internet, for example. Kim Leadbeater has repeatedly said in committee, this isn't suicide, and kind of implies that because terminally ill people are dying anyway, that it's not suicide for them. Where do you land on this? You just used the phrase committing suicide, so I take it that you disagree with Kim, but what's your response to her claim there?
Well, assisted suicide is still suicide. It's assisting someone to die sooner than their body should be dying. Let's say you don't assume it's suicide. It's still a way of stopping your life sooner than what it's intended to, and you could miss out on a lot of things. Rather focus on helping that person to live to the best of his potential for as long as he can, and staying with his family and building memories and focusing on those kind of things. But I want to die fighting. I'm going to go down guns blazing. And I will make the most to the end. That's how I want to be remembered. Next month, it's going to be 3 years that I'm alive. And I treasure every single day, and I try and make memories as much as I can and do things. But the thing is, just because I was dealt a very bad hand didn't mean I need to accept it. I fought it, and I'm still sticking around. Even my wife that passed away, I mean, with her, they thought she was going to pass away a lot sooner than she did, because even at her worst state, she outlived their prognosis every single time. Originally, yes, her prognosis was 3 to 5 years, but as she declined, they realized that was optimistic. And then they said a couple of weeks, and she outlived that by many weeks or months. And I had great times with her, sitting in bed, talking and sharing things. So yeah, I would not give that up for a minute. Make the most of every moment. Set small goals to live as long as you can for every little bit that you can. Hopefully it will give hope to a couple of people, and it will also open the eyes of some parliamentarians, understanding that maybe don't rush into this too quickly. Maybe look at different ways of helping people with cancer, like I mentioned, making their quality of life a little bit better. They might just surprise you